Meghan quit their royal duties back in 2020, they also, of course, lost their taxpayer-funded police protection. Now Prince Harry is taking the government to court for refusing to allow him to pay for UK police protection himself.
It's an interesting one, this, isn't it? He says he wants to bring his son Archie and the little baby, Lilibet, to visit from the US, but later this year. But Harry says that it's just too dangerous without local security. Well, Davies, who led the Metropolitan Police's Royalty Protection Unit, joins us from North Wales, so he knows what he's talking about. And also Afua Adom, broadcaster and journalist, who believes that Harry and Meghan should indeed be able to pay for their own British police protection when they get here. She joins us now from Ghana. But let's start with you, Davies. From your experience, what is it you think that Harry's worried about? I mean, what I read yesterday was that he says he gets followed by the paparazzi. And that, of course, we know what that led to in the tragic case of his mother. But is that enough of a threat to warrant special police protection here? Di, I think you may need to unpress the mute button. Di, we can't hear you.
Well, let's get that sorted and talk to Afua first. Afua, the argument against Prince Harry is that the Metropolitan Police are not for hire. So what is the justification, do you think, for him paying for them?
Well, the threats against Harry, Meghan and Lilibet and Archie are really quite real. You know, you said there that he was chased by paparazzi the last time that he was in the UK, which does also have echoes of the death of Princess Diana. But there's also been threats made against Harry, you know, including by right-wing neo-Nazi groups who called Harry a race traitor. That's only one of a few people who have been jailed for the threats made against Prince Harry and his family. So the threats are real. And if Harry has the money, which he says he has, and it's not coming out of the taxpayer's purse at all, to pay for the level of protection he needs to be able to keep his family safe and to be able to see other members of his family, I think he should be able to do that. Obviously, as long as it doesn't take away police from any other duties that they should be doing. And if you're using local police on the ground, they know the terrain. They are best placed to be able to keep him and his family safe. You know, and he said in the interview with Oprah Winfrey that that's something that he wanted to do, that he was denied that protection, you know, and everyone said, you know, we don't believe that that's true. But in fact, he has proved that that is true. It's not coming out of the taxpayer's purse. He just wants to keep his family safe. And like I say, as long as it's not taking police away from other duties they should be doing, he should be able to provide the level of protection for his family that he needs if he can afford it. It's not coming out of the taxpayer's purse. It's coming out of his own. And he's doing everything that he can to keep his young family safe.
But wouldn't the Metropolitan Police protect him anyway? I mean, if they came across information which showed that there was some kind of threat towards Prince Harry and his family, then they'd be duty-bound to protect him in any way, wouldn't they? He wouldn't need to hire them as a special unit. They'd be doing their job as a matter of course.
Well, we'd like to think that, yes, they would, but I think he wants an extra level of protection that might require extra officers. He acknowledges that he's not necessarily in the firm, in the inner circle of the royal family that would afford that extra layer. So therefore, he wants to pay for it himself. I think the Metropolitan Police perhaps can do so much, but the level of protection he requires is higher than what they can provide. So therefore, he wants to provide it for himself.
OK, Davies then, unmuted and free rein to explain.
Unmuted. Good morning.
Good morning again. So you were in charge of the Met's Royalty Protection Unit. You know, he might have left with Meghan and gone off to America, but he's still at risk, isn't he? Why isn't he entitled to protection when he visits?
Well, good morning. I'm sorry about the mutation. Yes, in one sense, we go with a risk assessment. He chose to go to America. That's his prerogative. And it's our prerogative to ensure that when we look at any aspect of protection, any member of the royal family, that we actually look and assess it through various security agencies. That's the crux. And it's been decided in this level, one, that they won't supply him with protection because the risk at this stage is deemed low. However, should there be a risk when he comes, then clearly, as you've said, Richard, the Metropolitan Police would be duty bound. It is alleged, and I'm no expert now in what they do decide or not, because I'm not party to it, but clearly it has been reviewed in the same way as so many other royal security have been done. Princess Anne, for instance, his aunt, she doesn't get full-time protection, we're told now, and yet arguably in 1974 she was nearly kidnapped and or murdered. Her protection officer was shot. However, with regards to Harry, he can't pick and choose when and if he wants to come. There has never been a precedent where somebody pays for their security in this country. If it's required, it will be provided.
Can we just address this question of the paparazzi? The paparazzi follow a lot of people, and the paparazzi are not a threat to life and limb. And we know, really, that the reason that Harry's mother died was because, one of the reasons that she died was because the driver of her car was drunk, on drugs, and was seeking to outrun the paparazzi by driving at high speed into a tunnel where he lost control. You don't have to outrun the paparazzi, and most people just live with them in the same way as you live with wasps buzzing around your head at a picnic. Do you think that Harry has any claim to protection because of the paps?
No, I don't. Ken Wharf famously said, the press are a pain in the backside, but they don't kill you. And that's absolutely true. He can bring private security if he wants to. What they won't have is the up-to-date information and intelligence that a police officer would have. I accept that. But if you look, as I have, at the history of attacks for the last 300 years on members of the royal family, it is so rare that anyone requires a firearm. And that's really what we're talking about. It's so rare that it's simply hasn't happened. I'm not saying it couldn't happen, but really, I just think he's given up being a royal. He can't expect to come backwards and forwards and at a drop of a hat either pay for his security. It sets a precedent. Only Edward VIII, when he abdicated, had security, and that was because the British government wanted to spy on him and is pro-Nazi. I really don't accept that there is a case in this instance. The threat isn't there. Yes, there are people in prison who have threatened, but trust me, every member of the royal family gets threats, and it's the job of the police to counter that, and they do very well.
But other members of the royal family also get protection. I'm not sure why. He is one of the most high-profile members of the royal family, and at the same time, one of the most criticised. We know the threats that exist. He also served tours in Afghanistan. He feels he's at risk. I don't know what he's supposed to do. Just finally die. He could, of course, pay for private security. How much protection would they provide, and why does maybe he think that's not enough? Is it because of that they wouldn't be allowed to be armed?
Well, that's one of the issues. But as I've said, historically, royalty protection, very rarely have they taken out a gun to use it in anger or in a potential anger. In terms of the private security, they could come here if they get the requisite visas. They could provide an outer and inner ring if that's what he wants. But the truth is, despite some of these lunatics who threaten to kill him, you wouldn't believe how many people threaten to kill or do harm to members of the royal family. It is closely monitored by our intelligence services and the royalty protection.
And
if
Afua,
that
just
changes,
before,
I'd be the first to say.
Afua, are you reassured?
Oh, absolutely not. The threats against Prince Harry and Meghan are really quite real. They have an element of race to them that I don't think has been seen before in the royal family. Like I said, far-right neo-Nazis threatening them. I think things change all the time, and the threats made against them are different. And no, paparazzi may not kill people, but I don't think that driver would have been trying to drive so fast if they hadn't been there in the first place. They are certainly an element, and they add to the security risk. And I think, Harry's definitely done his own risk assessments. He knows the risk that he feels and his family feels. You know, when they first went to the US, they sought security from people like Tyler Perry and Oprah that they met on the ground because they knew the risk that was against him and his family. I don't think he would be doing this if he didn't have to. And I think this should be taken seriously.
Well,
he does have a right to go back and forth and have the security that he needs.
Well, you both put very good arguments on either side of it. We'll see what the courts decide. Thank you both for your time this morning. All right.